All right, so let's go ahead and jump right in. First off, to make sure that things are working, because the NuGet plugin makes nuclear explosions, now works with the Arnold renderer, which is fantastic because, I mean, it always set up really fast traditionally, but now with the Arnold renderer, it renders really fast too, so it's a very quick effect to put together and get done now. So first off, wait, what am I clicking? We want to go to Windows, Settings and Preferences and Plugin Manager, and you just want to make sure that it's loaded. So that's the Arnold render right there, and it's loaded. So go ahead and do that. I do have this little button, and you have a script editor, and the way you access that is just through clicking this little button over here. And wow, it's taking a sec. Okay, there we go. So you just want to type this this in there. Pop this open here for you. This is my script folder. You can see this one is the new version for the Arnold renderer, and it has some new bells and whistles too, and so we'll take a look at some of those things. So I'll send that to you, and you just want to make sure that that lands in your scripts folder. I know it's different for Mac. I don't remember off the top of my head where the scripts folder are for Mac, but I do know that I've had a couple people purchase this from me for Macs, and so you just got to find the scripts folder. I don't remember where it is right off the top of my head. So anyway, so type that in there. File, save script to shelf. I already got it there, so I think I'm just going to call it NuGet 2. Boom. And then all you have to do is click that button. All right, so I'm going to just delete that, and we're just going to use this. Next thing you want to make sure, because this is going to cook a lot of textures and stuff, and so by having the Hypershade open, I mean, you can do some of this. I just kind of find it easier to go ahead and just close it, because it's going to be trying to click shaders, and it's going to drag down your GPU. Maybe you've got a really great GPU that's going to be fine, but maybe not. For me, I just find it easier to just close it, so nothing's really dragging it down behind the scenes. So if you just close that and just make sure it's not hanging out down here, because if it is, you could have it open and it's down here, but it's still running. So just close that out, make sure that's all closed. Alright, so I'm going to click this button. I think I usually run these sections at 80 or more. Oh, what the heck? We'll just do 80. I'm not going to go all the way through like all the fields and everything. I'm just going to hit the high points. I'm also not going to completely artistically design this. I'm going to leave that up to you. I'm just going to show you some basics. I know I already showed some of these basics on the old version, which is for Mental Ray, and so that stuff still stands, and that's still available. If you have an older version of Maya, I do still have that for Mental Ray, but this is the new workflow with a few extra things for the Arnold renderer. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. So first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to just want to click that Setup Initial Shader. And if you just want to make sure you're in your attribute editor over here. Go down to shading. Okay, so do me a favor, don't add any more like nodes. I'm going to just close that since I did. You really just want to keep it at this. And there's a reason why for that, because I kind of marry things up in this script, and you can then control the burn and things like this after the fact. You can definitely change the colors. So, if you want to make this whiter or that orange or redder, or move these around, I would just avoid adding any extra nodes. All right, so let's just keep moving along. So I like to keep this right there, just so we can see that things are running in this window. Okay, so setup for Arnold, making sure the Hypershade's closed. We're just going to click that button. And there we go. You can see that's done. Now, let's click this button. Alright, so things are linked up. And now, we just want to go ahead and click the mushroom head. We're going to click Run. And we can see it's working. And the more the sections are up, This is just going to take longer. So just keep that in mind. So if you have like 1,000, you're gonna be waiting for a while. 80. That's right. This is like the longest part of the whole thing. And oh my gosh, there we go. Oh, that was painful. It took like a whole 60 seconds. Okay, so there we go. We're gonna keep it as spheres. I use spheres just kind of give myself an idea of what I'm getting. But that cloud button is in there because that's what we're gonna render. We're not gonna render spheres. All right, so let's run the body. It's only running 8 segments, so much faster than the good old 80. All right. I do tend to think 30 is good for that, so yeah. Okay. All right, so I'm not really going to show the ground, but we'll just go ahead and set it up. Make a stick. Just ignore all that. Shader backing. Right. Okay. So if you click this, if you get cracks, not clacks, if you get cracks between some of the particles and things like that, what this will do is you can assign a. We'll go ahead and open up the. Oh, that was the mistake, wasn't it? Should not have opened that up. Okay. Yeah, don't open that up. It's already kind of selected over here, so there we go. And you can always, if you want to select, like, say, that shader, which is the backer, without opening up the hyper shader. So it's real simple. You just that's all you need to type. So that select the flag R, which is basically replacing. So if you had like that selected, that's just going to replace that with this surface shader 1. So just want to make sure that capital S for shader is there. Everything else is lowercase, and you just do that, and boom, you got the surface shader. And then this is where you can go in and change colors and blend between, that's more color 1, that's more color 2, and then this is where you can start to change the color types and things like that. So, geez, I really buried that guy down there, didn't I? Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so anyways, you just keep diving down, and then this is how you dive back up. You just hit this up button. And boom, we're all the way back up to the surface shader. So, so I'm actually not using the surface shader as the backer so much anymore. This is great if you want to set color and try to match the color of your particles and things like that. But I've actually just been using a matte shader, and I'll show that to you later. So I feel like this is getting a little long, so let's just dive ahead. Okay. So where are we at? Let's look. All right, so we did all that. We're going to come back to this stuff. Okay. Let's just get the particles rolling because we want to get them all the way around the head and up the body. Let's see. So we want to select these particles. Let's make a little display layer for them. Click that button. Creates. Select the particles, click that button, it makes a layer, and then you can call it whatever you want. So we're just going to say hide underscore layer. Great naming convention, by the way. And then GRP can be for groups and different things like that. So let's do that. Select that. Right click and add to selected. So that you just click that and that hides things. All right, so we're just going to focus on this right now. And let's get that rolling. Now the scaling for the head, it's kind of nice because you can just scale things up right here and interactively. What we've done with the body here is not the same thing. This is really more just kind of a preview, and these are not one-to-one to the cloud. They're close, but not exact. So the body scaling is a little different. So this is kind of like a global scale. There is a randomization in here, so you get some big particles, some little particles, and they're all kind of buried in there. But here, you're going to see this is starting at a size, and then as it gets up, these particles up here are smaller than these ones down here. And the reason for that is it's nice to have it kind of, or for me anyways, artistically, I kind of like it to have that kind of flare, you know, where it kind of comes in and up, and then it's kind of skinnier at the top. And then, but as it gets to the bottom, it gets kind of flared out. Problem is, if you want to cover things when it's like flared out, well, then you end up with these big particles up here, and then it's not real skinny at the top anymore. I mean, I don't like it like toothpick thin, but you know, for me, I like to get it kind of a little thinner up there. So the solution for that is for the particles to get smaller, but then, you know, and the more you flare it out, the bigger those particles are going to be needed to be. So as you can see, those particles are like getting tiny, and we're going to control for that, and we can control and make these bigger. So this gives you flexibility to really be able to flare things out, but yet get your stock all the way covered. So I think it's looking like it's about done, I think. Okay. Let's just go ahead and stop that. Okay. So let's put this over here. So this is the head, okay, and then this one is the body. I'm just gonna middle mouse drag that right, not like where it covers, but right where that line is just underneath. Boom. So head, body. So if we select those guys, and then there's like this little box right there. You see that little box? We click that, and it just isolates those. So what I want to do, let's not deform that per se, but make sure you're in your modeling tab, go to deform, lattices, and change that to 10. And yeah, okay, so that's, sorry, I should be explaining this. So this is the grid, so you can snap to the grid, okay? You can hit insert on your keyboard or hold D down, and then you can move your pivot point. So I'm just going to snap that down to the grid. You'll notice that this goes below a little bit, and that's because when particles pop on, they like pop on, and I don't really want those in the effect. So that's why that's going a little below the grid, but not too much. All right, so let's take a look at that. So what we can do here is we can just kind of do something like that. Let's, before we do that though, if you right click and hold, you can go to lattice points. Okay, we're going to select that. And then if you hold B down and your middle mouse button, you can see this circle. And as I drag it, this is going to get redder and redder and redder. Well, what that's doing is if I have it really close to like that, then that's only going to affect these. If I hit B again, then there is no soft selection. And that's what it is. So if I hold B down, now I can start to affect all the particles. And now the more yellow it is, the more it's affected. So if I hold that down like that, that's going to do that. So we have these axes. Now if I hold control down and I do that, that's actually going to be scaling these two guys in. See that, how that works? So it's kind of scaling them in. So basically what that's doing by holding control in this axis, it's going to do all the other axes and not that one. Okay? So we're just going to do something like that. Drag a box around those guys. And, or I can actually do the top again. It's just going to flare that bottom out. Okay. Stick with something like this for now. Right click back on that. Actually, let's go to, yeah. Yeah. Keep it like that for now. And then we're just going to grab that one, not control. We're just going to pull it down and make it short. I do like having this open so that I could select things over here instead of trying to select things out here. It's nice when things are in the way. Oh, we still have our grid snap on. Pull that guy, maybe to right like that. This is your move tool, your scale tool, and your rotate tool. So I'm just hitting like W for move, E for rotate, R for scale, and you can see that it's just changing back and forth amongst those. So right now I'm just going to hit that, and we're just going to do it a little bigger. Okay, scale that up, and this is where you start making your own decisions on how you want things to look. So do this. Now we're just going to hit this little button, just going to go forward 1 frame, and you're just going to see everything's going to snap back to it. Okay, let's just hit our play button there. Okay, hit stop. Now everything should really be around our geometry now. Alright, so let's click all this stuff off except for particles. Keep that on, and I'm just going to go through and select all those head particles. Alright, so go to FX, Field Solvers, Initial State. There we go. And you can click that Set for Selected. Do the same thing for the body. Now if we go back all the way to frame 1, it starts right like that. So now we can go all the way back to the beginning, and now we still have that. It seems like there's always usually a little bit of a pop from like frame 1 to 2. See that pop? And then it kind of runs normal from there. Not a big deal. Just skip frame 1 or whatever the case may be. That's what I typically do. So, okay. So let's start thinking about what we want to do next. So, select the head. Go back to modeling. Duplicate this. Try that again. Control D. There we go. Call this beginning. Okay. And again, we can isolate that. Just see what we're getting. We can go to deform. Where is it? No, I'm just looking right over it. Texture deformers. There we go. Texture deformer. Alright, so we want to go off of our UVs and our normal. Click that. We want this to be 3D. So let's use something like that. I did come up with something like that, and you can see the settings for that. So select beginning first, revolve surface 1, go to deform, blend shape. Alright. So if you go over here in the channel box, you can just type a 0 into visibility, and it'll turn that off. 1 is on, 0 is off. Alright, let's unclick that little box, and now if we look at re-isolate him, okay, back to the attribute editor, blend shape. Oh, that's doing something weird. So let's just set that to user. It's not really going to snap to it, so if it's moved, it's not going to do that, but that's okay. We'll just set a keyframe just by clicking S, and that'll give us our position there. So that's 800 frames. Okay. Okay. And then say we want this to go 800 frames. Pull that up. Something like that. Let's duplicate that though. And middle mouse, drag that right under that. let's call this end, isolate it, isolate the end. So now we're just looking at that. Let's deform that guy. God, okay, there we go. Normal. And let's not do that preset. Let's go here. Let's see what that might look like. And select that end. I think that's getting a little too bumpy in areas. So again, I just access that through surfaces, the sculpt geometry tool, and so that I could see it, I came over here and I clicked this button. So we have this smooth. So this guy like smooths things out. Actually, let's do this. Edit, delete by type history, because it still has that deformer on it. So deleting history with that selected. Now don't do delete histories on that, because your particles are following that. So if you delete histories, you're going to break that. So don't delete histories on that. Probably should have pointed that early, but better late than never. Okay, so we deleted histories on that. And now we've got the smooth button. Okay, we can smooth things out a little bit. Yeah, whatever. I don't want to make this too uniform though, so we'll probably get the brush back in here. So that's, this one kind of pulls, or it gets it to kind of balloon out, I guess. I kind of like to get these out like that. Okay, maybe smooth that back in a little bit. Play with that, get something that you like. I do kind of like to push some of this back so that we kind of get this hollow thing in here, and then smooth it out. But yeah, I don't want to spend any more time on that, because this video is just going to get really long if I'm doing all that. I just kind of want to give you the gist of like how to get started designing something. So, okay, boom, that is that. All right, so we're at frame 800 now. Let's hit S. That's selected. Control click that. Go to deform, blend shape. So we're going to get this blend shape too. Again, let's just set that to user. If we set that to 1, okay, let's select that and hit S. So that's going to move it up and scale it. Now the other thing we're going to want to do here is set key here, blend shape 1. So it's really not making that big of a difference. Thought it did, but I guess not. So maybe we'll just focus on blend shape 2. So we've got that keyed. Go back all the way to frame 1. Drag this slider. Set key. Okay, so let's see what we got going on. Yeah, that's looking wild on frame 1. Move it up maybe a bit. It's like it's sitting right on top of the stock. You can't see anything. Boom. Okay. And as you can see, there's like some cracking and stuff like that. But that is what it is. So let's select this end, dude. And as you can see, I have objects still turned off, but I can still select them over here. If you want all that back on, just turn all that back on. Okay. Looks like I just had that turned off. So let's right click that. Break connections and 0. Here. Okay. Just gonna double check, make sure that was what I was keying. Yes, it goes all the way up there. Okay. Okay, we're at frame 800. Let's go ahead and select this lattice, and we don't have a keyframe on frame 1. Okay, so back to frame 1. S all the way to the end. And let's do something like that. So let me see what we're getting. Control click those three things. Yeah. Okay, so with this lattice selected, press S. I'm just going to isolate that lattice because I also want to key the lattice points. So again, right click and hold and you go to the lattice points. Okay. So I'm going to select them all, hit S, go to the end, and I'm probably going to want to flare like that out. That out. Kind of get a flare feel going. And select it all, hit S again. Okay, so now we should have something that's building. Okay, so down here. So like I said, I use that shader backing sometimes, and you can try to match that color. But kind of what I've been doing lately, and I'm just going to show you how to do this. Apparently that's not going to work. Apparently I didn't type that right. Okay. No, I did not really want to open this, but we'll go ahead and open it for now. Alright, so we'll just do it in here real quick, and then we'll get out. Alright, so standard surface. Select those geometries. Assign the material. So you select them, right click and hold, assign material to selection. Okay, so then from here, we can just turn that there. We can go matte, enable matte. Okay. And then you can replace the cracking in post, which I feel is a little easier to match what's happening with the clouds than trying to match a shader backing. But either way, I mean, that's an option too. Just kind of how I've started to lean as far as this effect goes. All right, so let's look what we have here. So for the body scaler. Okay, and it's kind of freezing on me here, so let's let that do its thing. There we go. I still have Hypershade open. And I do. Close that guy. Alright. I'm going to let this play and get a little further along. I'm not going to make you watch all that, so just hold on one sec. Let's let that play, and we'll continue on. Alright, so I originally set everything to be like 800 frames. Maybe you don't want 800 frames. Maybe you want it at like 620 or something like that. So if you go to Windows, Animation, Graph Editor, we can actually grab all these keyframes, and we can do like 621. That'll move all that to 621. Then we can also grab the head component, select all those keyframes, and 621. Okay, the other thing I think I might want to do is just select them all. Right now it's set to kind of ease in and ease out of the animation. Let's just do it as linear. Same things with those, 620. Linear. And linear. Okay, let's keep playing it. Okay, so I tend to like to play past wherever I'm trying to get to, because I can still key it and then just tell it to go back to like 620 or whatever the case may be. Okay, so and looking at this, so this has this flare out look, and I'm just going to drop down a poly plane and scale that up. Okay. So this has this flare out on the body, but you can see, we can really see through it at this point. So let's take a look at that. So down here, so we come all the way to the bottom. We have this body scaler. So let's click that. Let's go to the attribute, and it'll give this UV2 ramp. Come down here. You can mess with this, but I feel like this is the most helpful area. All right. So as these particles go up, they're going to go down to 0, which means they basically disappear. I don't really want that. But then here I want these bottom guys, so these guys will now be a 0.3 in scale, but these guys need to be like significantly better or bigger, so maybe 2.5. And if we go forward, yeah. And maybe these guys need to be bigger. I don't know. And like I said, these aren't exactly a one-to-one correlation to the cloud. So it's close but not exact. So we'll actually want to start taking a look at the cloud here in a minute and seeing what we think. Okay, so we've got our burn, we've got our body scaler, and you can key this stuff too, so keep that in mind. Oh, and then this just kind of makes, if you need to make the cloud softer, you've got this transparency thing. Let's go back here, let's go to the noise tweak. And so the main thing that we're going to want to tweak is this. We want this to be definitely smaller when this is big. So it's kind of inverse. So to make it smaller, or the details bigger, we want this value to be smaller. So put that at 0.6. I tend to think is pretty good. All right, so let's just take a look at what we're getting. Arnold lights, physical sky, and set the exposure to 10. Come down here. We don't want, well, I'll just show you. Click this. Go to Arnold render. Let's just set this to 1. Okay. So if we render this, oh, right, cloud, try that again. Oh, looks like our exposure is a little too bright. Okay, so go back to the sky, put that down to like 2. Render that again. As you can see, the Arnold render renders this a lot faster. Okay, but I really don't want to see the actual sky because I want to comp this. So in the sky dome light shape, if you just take that camera visibility and put it to 0, and if you render it again, you'll get something a little better. And now too, because we set a matte back there, when you look at the matte, you'll actually see there's an alpha there, so we can actually back that in compositing. So use the shader backing in here if you want, like in the old tutorial. But this is just kind of what I've been doing lately. So, but if you don't want to do that, this is fine. Go back to RGB. The other thing you can do is maybe feel like these particles need to be a little bigger, or maybe even 75. So if we make those particles bigger, we update it a little bit. and that can kind of cover them too. Okay, so let's see. Let's go over here. And just so we're getting really fast renders, let's just go put this at 0. Be a little noisy, but it goes really fast. You can get away with 1 for actually rendering this for final, but for 0, it'll just go super, super, super quick. 1 goes pretty quick too, maybe not this fast, but you can just see Arnold just like rips through this. It's quite impressive. Alright, so as we're looking at this, let's go back to here and let's go to the noise tweak. I'm going to set a key by right-clicking set key, and then I'm going to right-click on it again and go in there, and then we can just set that key to actually be that. Click this, we'll go up. I probably want that to be something larger at the beginning, so we'll just set key and right-click again, and then we'll take that 0.81 and put it at 1. So now we have smaller details at the beginning getting larger, which just kind of looks better there. Okay, so for the burn, we're going to control this in 2 ways. One, we want to key these this minimum in this cooler, kind of the same thing. So this is for the head, and then this one is for the body. So think of the minimum temperature, and it's same thing as the cooler. So let's go ahead and set a key. Right click, set a key, and you can see it's pretty fiery. So let's put that at 1. Let's go back up. You can also use these little things too. Let's just set that at 1. We'll come back up. But now we actually want these to be cooler as the explosion is progressed. So, I don't know, let's just try 10s. Across the board. Right click, set key, right click, and set key. And let's take a picture of that. Don't worry about these. You're going to see these little cracks going through here. Don't worry about those. When you go to render the sequence, that doesn't really pop in. But I'll address that a little bit more here a little bit later too. But I have not noticed that in the final renders. Okay. And let's actually save some of these so we can see what we're getting. So you click that and you can actually save that image. Okay, so let's go in and let's just say 15. Oh, you know what? I didn't update it. Maybe 12. You do have to update this. So when you change these values, okay, you do need to at least go 1 frame forward so that things update. And then you can take a snapshot. And there you go. You can see that things are definitely cooling down. Let's go back in here. I kind of want that smoke to be a little brighter. Let's just save this so I don't crash. Or if I do crash, I don't go all the way back to the beginning. Okay. Save that. There you go, and you can see that smoke is kind of brightening up with the brightness of the sky. I don't really want to get too in depth on designing something. I'm just kind of wanting to show you guys. But maybe we could take one look at one thing. I also think when these, I it exploded, that the atmosphere is going to be dirtier and stuff like that. So I like to bring down the elevation. Take a picture of that. Yeah, this gives you this dirtier look, but you can bring that up, and the higher that goes, you're going to kind of get a cooler look. So it's kind of like, this is kind of like sunset coloring, with that being lower, and maybe you just take a quick look at it from this viewpoint. So you can kind of see, if we increase that value, you can kind of play around with the look of things there too. I tend to also, we're not going to do a lot of that. I kind of want to get moving on. The other thing I like to do too is just rotate the whole thing, kind of give angles on the lights. Now you can also set up your own light. You don't have to use the physical light. And it even goes faster if you set up your own lights. So keep that in mind. We'll just take, and look at this. This is rendering out 1920 by 1080, so like 2K, and if you see how long this is taking, it's not taking long at all. It's just like, it's really blazing through this. So where's the 10 seconds? That's crazy. Arnold, it's a pretty renderer, and it's just blazes through things. It's just, yeah, it's been quite impressed with it, honestly. And so this is just where you play with that a little bit. And so this is kind of cooling down at this point. Okay, come on. Out of the way, out of the way. Okay, so you can also, if you come here to the fluid, this is another thing I like to do. I know I'm throwing a lot at you guys, but I want to, but I also know that you can come back and look at the video and stuff like that too. What to be doing was king this, king that, key, set key. Okay. All right, so we got all those positions set. Okay. Back up. Okay, hold on one. Okay, so for, I don't know, it should be, there we go, it's popping up in here. But it wasn't popping up for a second. And if that happens to you too, I kind of want to show you another way. Okay, it's, for some reason it wasn't refreshing. But you can also, and maybe this is even easier to do it, if you go to the graph editor, open that up, that's going to show us all of our keyframes. So if we just select all those, just select them all, this might even be easier. This is the way we should have been doing it the whole time. Okay, now we can crunch, 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 set key, set key, set key, set key. All right. Hit the eyeball, we can see what we had. And render that, and then we'll see what we have that's new. Okay, so there you can see we were cooling it down by, this is getting cooler from the top and hotter all the way to the bottom. So the arrays do that, but this other one also just cools everything down in general. So you can play with that too. So it's two ways to kind of go at it. I tend to kind of like to try to keep some of this stuff hot up in here because I just think it looks cool that way. But you know, again, that's artistic. That's just all how you want to go from it. Okay, so looking at that, maybe this is exactly what you're going for. I think this should be skinnier. So, and then this is just where you kind of go back and forth. So that body scalar. maybe we want this at 2, and maybe we don't want that quite like that. And then we've got to update it. And again, remember, I would probably key these two at the 620 and whatever. So just keep that in mind. I'm not going to do that. I just kind of want to get this out there again. Okay, so let's just see what this does. Yeah, so you can see how that's kind of affecting things too. But you know, maybe you want it taller, so for that revolve surface 1, again, go into here, and maybe you say, well, let's have that at 12, and for that lattice, not translate for that one, be more like this. So we want that to be, I don't know, that might be all the way up there. Looks like it's kind of getting up there. We'll just update things, take a snapshot. Looks like it's probably going to go off screen, but we'll take a look. Probably want to play it a little bit longer to get all the particles kind of where they're supposed to be. Okay. Try that again. Okay, maybe that does need to be... Well, in general, this probably needs to be scaled up. So, but this is the back and forth of the design process, which I'm going to get out of here in a second. I'm just going to do one last thing. Go back to the body scaler. Let's put that back at a 2.5, and maybe that back at a 0.2. So as it's getting taller, feels like it should be a little thicker now. Alright, bam, there you go. Again, play with it. Maybe this still could be thicker up here, but this is where you're going to get into the design and all that sort of stuff. So we've actually built a pretty good explosion, and this fire is animated. Let me go ahead and save real quick, so bear with me while that saves. Go back to the beginning. I probably should have keyed some of that noise, but it's okay. So now, save that. Again, don't worry about all those lines. Like I said, that's going to go away when you do your final render. Kind of annoying, but it just is what it is. What these are is these are for a level of detail, so that we don't have to pull the full geometry of the clouds in. I mean, I left a button in here, like if you wanted to, like if that just really annoyed you and you got great GPU, you could click this button, full display, and you won't get any of those wires. But it's really going to drag your system down. So I just have this bounding box on. But like I said, when I've rendered it out through render sequence, I don't get that. But again, it's an option. Okay, so I'm going to show you one last thing, because I know a lot of people that have bought this plugin have asked about air rings and things like that. So I will show you how to make air rings with Arnold. You know, I don't know, maybe something like that. Okay, and I still have that soft selection going on. So control click, we could do something like that, just kind of flatten that out. Back to edge. And if you double click, if you double click an edge and right click object mode, right click UVs, you know, your vertices, all that sort of stuff. But if you go to edge, you double click one of your edges, you're going to get the whole edge loop. You go to scale, and then again, if you hold that B down and control click that, maybe went a little bit more, you kind of start to get this shape, kind of like that. Something maybe like that. Okay, so and then you can also again noise this up, so that texture deformer, noise. Wow, that's something. That might be kind of cool, just like that, just default. I don't know. You just go through and play with these, and you also have these different noise types, so you know, check some of those out. Man, that might even be actually better than what I made for my last one. Anyway, yeah, that's kind of cool. Okay, so I would probably export and keep the same camera, and then duplicate E to rotate it, spin it down, and then just shrink it. So kind of like these two air-rings. Okay. And then okay. Just gonna try. Okay, so let's check this out. Let me do that again. So let's just delete that. Go to Arnold Shader all the way at the bottom. Right click and hold Assign Material. Right click and hold Assign Material. Okay. If we render, I'm not going to get what we want. Actually, let's do this. Create lights. Let's create a point light. So quadratic. Okay. And we shouldn't get what we want, but we'll take a quick look. Okay. Now if we go here, it's going to be an Arnold tab. So we go to the shape, down to the Arnold tab, and then, okay, where is it? Oh, volume attributes, here we go. Let's put this up to 0.1. Okay, I'm starting to see something in there. Let's make that light even brighter. Okay, so you're starting to see that we're getting this volumetric effect. And then here, let's get a little bit of color. And then we'll give an intensity of, this would probably be a little insane, but something like that. I don't really like being able to see through it, so let's just turn that off for now. Let's play around with the step size a little bit. Save that, and let's see what 0.1 was again. That looks about the same. But what we can do is we can also come to the density and play around with that too. So we can add extra density. Maybe we do want physical sky. And then we can elevation down again. But it might give us just a hint of something out here too. So anyways, there's something that you can play with, and then you can just, I mean, it's pretty simple. You just set it there, and then whatever frame rate you're at, you just set that like that. And you just have this animating volume. And then you can, I would probably render these separately, so render that one. And then, actually, maybe we could just create like a layer for that one. And then make a group for that. And then you can render that one. So there you go. That's how you can create and animate air rings. Anyways, hope this has been helpful as far as the Nuke It plugin. Yeah, head over to the site if you're interested in it and check it out. All right, thanks so much. Bye.